Hi there, and welcome to Africa Beyond Borders. I'm your host, Soraya Mentor, and here we get to chat to amazing Africans who've traveled the world beyond their homes, who's here to share real stories, amazing dreams, and how they carry their culture everywhere they go. Today, we are joined by Darren Scharneck. Good day, Darren. How are you doing?
Hello, Soraya. Well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's just amazing to talk to you. Darren is a music artist and marketing consultant, and his energy is one of the best energies that I've met, guys. I'm just so excited to talk to you, Darren.
Likewise. Thanks for having me on the show, and hello to all the viewers.
Just to get into it, well, Darren, you grew up in Eastern Cape side, specifically East London, and you now live in Johannesburg. I just want to learn more about your heritage.
That is correct. So I am born and bred in South Africa, specifically in East London, in the Eastern Cape. So in most of my younger years in East London, I moved to a much smaller town called Queenstown around the age of 12 or 13. And when I had finished, I moved to Port Elizabeth, now known as in the Eastern Cape. And it's been about 12 years now that I've been living in Johannesburg. So, Johannesburg, South Africa, currently.
Oh, yes, it's 12 years is a very long time, and just moving to so many different towns. I'm sure you've encountered so
Right?
many cultures just like within South Africa alone. How was it like adapting, moving town to town?
Yeah, with South Africa, there's so many different languages. I mean, we've got 11 official languages, and generally, I would say that, the South African culture, wherever you move from or to, so the very tip of South Africa on the coast, where I spend most of my time, to more inland on top in Johannesburg. I think South African culture is very much about, the togetherness, the supportiveness rather, and the spirit of Ubuntu as we know it. Slight changes, like I would say, in languages. I grew up in the Eastern Cape where, isiXhosa is one of the more dominant sort of languages, and moving up to Johannesburg, it's so many more. There's you know that's also one of the dominant vernac languages here. So there are a lot. So slight differences, but generally, the warmth is the same.
Oh, that's so amazing to hear. I'm very excited to hear about your adventures around the world. You've traveled to Europe, and I'm just so excited to hear about this. Let's start out. When did you travel, and what was it like just making the entire process of like going to the flights or like organizing your flights rather? And what was the paperwork like?
Yeah. Well, if I can start by saying that, honestly speaking, I was a little bit of a late bloomer in traveling. I got to travel to Europe 2 years ago in 2023. And prior to traveling, I had a little bit of anxiety, if I'm honest. I didn't know what it would feel like to be in a different country and sort of what to expect. So I think there was a lot of delay on my part, in terms of traveling. But I had quite a big incentive. As you know, I'm a musician, so I love music. And one of my, favorite artists, Beyonce, was doing a Renaissance tour. And so that was really what sparked off the idea to travel. I also needed patience, so it was kind of killing two birds with one stone. So the traveling process in itself. obviously it's one that you do need to start planning quite long in advance. As a South African, you need a Schengen visa for that region when traveling. Um, so it took a little bit of time, but obviously, you plan as best as possible, get all your documentation ready. But I think for the most part, it was quite smooth sailing. I think, different individuals have different experiences when it comes to that process of obtaining your Schengen visa. Um, and so, even in that sense, I was quite nervous. I think it was just the outcome, like, is it going to be approved? Is there going to be, an issue for anything? But fortunately, that was all smooth sailing. And yeah, so once I got the documentation in order, all was good to go. Um, I would recommend also as a first time traveler to maybe work with a travel agency because they're more experienced in, travel and the logistics. They help find out best prices. You've got to look at, what airline you're going to take, the pricing, accommodation, what you'll be doing there. And they also help with advising on, what sort of documentation is needed. So those are the beginning steps before you actually head off to the airport, ready to check in, and then jet off to your destination. But fortunately, like I said, for me, it was quite smooth sailing.
Oh, that's just amazing to hear. I mean, you got to see Beyonce. That is worth traveling. That is worth every paper problem that you need to fly to another country. That just sounds amazing. I would like to
I would
know,
say
because
so. For me,
no, you may continue.
no, I was just saying. For me, it was quite an incentive. It was a story to see one of my most favorite artists doing live. And like I said, for me, it's quite important because I'm a musician for myself. And so I remember thinking and saying to myself, this is the ultimate in terms of what I would aspire to want to do in, being in media and doing world tours, etc. So I feel very, very privileged to be able to, have been traveled and experienced that.
Talking about like you as an artist, how did you bring back to your home country your experiences that you had in Europe?
That's a very interesting question. And, uh, I feel like I can confidently say that there was quite a bit that I was able to absorb. I think especially in today's time, we're living in a very digital time with social media, and we really try to engage with individuals. I think especially as musicians, want to connect with people on a human level as much as possible. So being able to travel, I think, allows you to get different perspectives to, different cultures, different lifestyles. Um, and when you're traveling, you're also, there's a lot of, cultural influence, but you're in the shoes of individuals in other countries. So when you're, sitting at a cafe having a coffee, or if you are an Uber, or you are, taking some means of public transport, most of the time the radio is playing. So you get to hear, what are other people in different parts of the world listening to, and they're responding, how are they reacting? So of a real life case for me, a little bit of, I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit research based. But I think as a musician, I'm wired that way. I love observing people, their behaviors, especially in different cultures. You hear the different sound of, their original music. And yeah, I think just the vibe and the flavor of, what people are doing in real time. So I think coming back to South Africa, it was kind of just taking a little bit of those ingredients and different flavors and adding it to my own pantry of different and cultural influences.
Oh, that is just amazing to hear. Do you ever feel like the different countries that you've been in Europe, so example, you've been to France, you've also been to the Netherlands, you talked about how music sounds different for each person, and I never thought like listening to radio in a different country would be different from my country. That's such an important or rather interesting fact. But back to my question, how did you well, rather adapt to the different types of music in the different countries in Europe?
Yeah. So for me, my genre of music is broadly categorized pop music. So that's pretty much, I guess, what being listened to uh, currently and generally. So whatever's popular at the time. And I think just to share one of my experiences, so actually two artists I was afforded the opportunity to watch live was Beyonce and The Weeknd, both in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. And after The Weeknd's performance, Amsterdam, I was with a group of friends, a small group of friends, and we to one of the sort of social scenes in Amsterdam, and they were playing Afro beats. And for me, I'm so used to hearing this sort of sound, being African and being in South Africa, that I immediately went into moving into, what I'm familiar with. And a friend of mine that I was with had like tapped me on the shoulder and be like, you know, I'm kind of pulling an audience because a circle had formed around me and people were kind of just watching dance, which was a little odd. And it took me a second to reconcile what was happening. But I'd realized that at the time, I'm a piano and it's had made such a big impact in Europe and played in, the social venues. And for me, it just felt so normal that, this is the music that we listen to back home. And you immediately start going with the music. And when I'd noticed that, okay, I'm sort of attracting a crowd by dancing, with these certain styles, that was very, very interesting. So I think what it really highlighted to me is, or for me rather, is the side of music and the trends that we're heading towards, of where firstly Africa is definitely at the forefront and on the map currently, in terms of the music sound, and I could see that in real time that this is what's taking place in other countries. And so coming back home, I kind of was able to listen to I'm a piano, Afrobeats, our uh, originating music, if I can call it that, with new ears and fresh ears and with a different appreciation. So I hope that answers your question.
You answered just so beautifully. I was like, wait, what? I'm a piano in Netherlands? Who's doing this? And welcome back to Africa Beyond Borders. We are joined by Darren Scharneck, who is now in Johannesburg, who's here to share his experiences in Europe. Getting into it, I just want to know, Darren, when you went to Europe, was there something you took along to remind you of home or comfort you of home?
I'd have to think of this. Outside of my everyday belongings, I don't think there was something in particular that I remember taking with me. And I think the reason for that is obviously you want to travel as lightly as possible. And also I was open to really absorbing, the different countries, the different cultures. So I can't say that there was anything specifically that I recall taking with to remind me. I think just me being African and South African allowed me to bring a bit of myself and and home with myself and take that to my visits.
Definitely, I definitely understand that, and lovely to hear that. I want to know, was there any weird habits that you picked up in Europe that people don't do in South Africa? Because I saw this recent video of like how in Japan people treat recycling different to what we do here in Namibia. So what was the one thing you saw?
Absolutely. There are a couple of things. They do differ slightly from country to country, but as I mentioned, fortunately, I went into my travels with the idea of just being open to observing and learning and understanding. Um, for me, at least, I felt that it's important to really have a good understanding of what are the norms in different countries, and asking questions and just being respectful. But there are a couple of things that I can remember looking back. For example, you mentioned recycling. What I found was different in the European countries that I visited, is on the topic of recycling, that we do a little bit differently, I would say, in South Africa. So, for example, the glass bottles that you purchase and consume, I recall that in Germany it was, there was quite a strong emphasis on that when I was in Munich. But when you use a glass bottle, you would actually not just throw that into the rubbish bin. There's a section where you can place that next to your normal rubbish. And the idea behind that is, people that are perhaps well, firstly, it's easier to recycle and keep the environment cleaner. And then there are also, individuals that are maybe a little bit less privileged, so that grants them an opportunity to collect those glass bottles and then take it to a place where they can exchange, those glass bottles for money. Um, I think some other kind of laws and rules, which I kind of enjoyed. It made sense to me. Again, in Germany, they're very strict on crossing the road. So even though there are rules, I would say around the world of, cross the road when man on the robot says it's your turn to cross the road. But my understanding is that it's actually taken as a serious, almost lawful offense if you just jaywalk. So it's really important to only cross the road when it's your turn. Um, I think what is a lot more obvious in countries like um, Amsterdam is the various modes of transport. So the moment you put foot out of your accommodation or building, you are confronted by trams and trains and people on bicycles, people walking. So it can feel a little bit overwhelming at first, but there's just this almost choreography of transportation that's moving all over. And what else can I think about? Of course, again in Germany specifically, I think also in other in most European countries. In South Africa, the rule is to keep left past right. But if I remember correctly, the rule there is to keep right. Even when you're going up, walking upstairs in the transportation um, areas, you would need to keep on the right side, and be conscious of people walking around. So if they move quite quickly in terms of the way that they walk. So just to be very conscious of their movement and allow them to walk past. So there were quite a few differences that I could tell. Yeah.
That is just so interesting to hear how strict the law of on the way that you said it so beautifully, the choreography of transportation. I would love to experience that one day. Just to close it off, is there like a lesson, like what's the one lesson that you learned in your traveling experiences, and what are you currently up to?
So for me, the biggest lesson, uh, as far as traveling goes and having that opportunity is really that, the world is so big. And so for me, it was personally very humbling in the sense that, when we experience the magnitude of, the world and different countries, it kind of just makes you realize how small you are in comparison to the world. And um you know I think for me it just was a very humbling sort of experience. And to add to that, I think that observing different cultures, different ways of living, different laws, different rules, and norms also is a reminder of how diverse individuals are and how unique we are as individuals. It's crazy to think that every single person on this planet has a unique fingerprint, and I think it's a reminder that as individuals we all are unique. And so it takes you back to kind of the thoughts and themes of just humanity and tolerance and sharing love, I guess, for each other, and being there for people that you may not even know. So for me, going into spaces that I had to be respectful towards by learning, a little bit of their language, their rules, their cultures, everything that I would consider different for me. All those aspects and that factors were really just quite humbling for me, I would say.
That is just beautiful. Just to hear again, what are you, as a music artist, pursuing currently, and what do we have to listen to?
Oh, thank you for asking. So, I have currently released a new single. It's called Should I? And it is a vocal ballad sort of track that came out recently. Um, so this is obviously in the medium to longer term plan of releasing more music, but the current offering is this particular single called Should I, and it is available for streaming globally wherever you're situated, any country on all the streaming services. So please go ahead and have a listen.
Darren, it was amazing talking to you today and just hearing your traveling adventures. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and share your traveling adventures with us.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for the opportunity to share my story.
To everyone watching, this was Africa Beyond Borders, where we share amazing stories of Africans who have traveled around the world. If this is something that interests you, please join us every Monday at 8:30 p.m. on DSTV channel 285, GoTV channel 25, and OneUp2.com. See you guys there.